well as we have Kiran Mann as well, who is my co-partner in webinar sharing, but also she's going to be our speaker today. This is a global division aiming to enrich the personal and professional lives of our members and non-members, for those of you who is the first time attending today. We host monthly webinars. If you are interested or know someone who is interested to speak, we're always looking for speakers in different areas of our book of knowledge, which can be found on our website. The link can be found on the chat box. If you are interested, you can take a look at that. There is also a question box that you'll see in there. So if you have any question during the webinar, you could use the question section, not the chat box, and we will answer the questions. We will also have a 15-minute session for the questions at the end of the webinar. The webinar is about 45 minutes speak and 15 minutes question and answer. If you want continuing education credit, which is 0.1 CU, you'll have to be on the webinar for at least 40 minutes. You'll receive a dedicated email from us, which is separate from the attendance email. And you can save that email as PDF and basically bring it back to ASU to claim your credit. So with this being said, let me introduce you to our speaker. As I mentioned, Kiran Mann is here with us today. She's the Vice President of Crestcom International, Eastern Canada. She also works in a partnership with businesses to build leaders, dynamic teams, and produce tangible results. Kiran believes leadership is fundamental in creating a positive, idyllic company culture and setting the platform for a happy, productive, and fulfilled employee environment. Fortunate of our Army campuses, upbringing where diversity, self-discipline, lead by example, time management is default, she grew up learning the importance of being a true leader. Learning and growing for over 2 decades in the manufacturing industry within automotive, she feels passionate about in doing and returning to the industries and people that have been around her and had given her so much. Furthermore, Kiran is also the founder and president of M2M Business Solutions. Her forward-thinking ideas, unconventional methods, and very extensive knowledge resonates with business owners in helping them increase their bottom line by running their business more efficiently and in turn increasing future profitability. Whether it's a self-established business or a new startup, Kiran's expertise offers guidance at every stage of the business development. Kiran brings over 20 years of experience in business, formulating and executing strategies. She possesses the instinctive ability to recognize opportunities for taking on high potential challenges. She's been exhibiting one of her many skills, in this case leadership, while working in the automotive manufacturing sector and turning around manufacturing plants for the external execution of major original equipment manufacturer, otherwise known as OEM programs, which also has been supporting about the same programs in the broad range of North American and European platforms in operations, engineering, innovation, quality, and sales sector. So quite a lot of accomplishment here. Kiran studied economics and political science at the University of Toronto, as well as she just graduated with an executive EMBA at Ivy Business School. So congratulations on that. And she also, since she managed time so well, she also is a volunteer at Crohn and Colitis and We, as well as spearheaded a campaign, which is also called the Superheroes of Tomorrow, workshop for preschool grade 12 years old kids, and is focused on developing leadership early. Well, Kiran, thank you for having us today and being with us. The floor is all yours.
Thank you so much, Sadita, and welcome everyone. Thank you so much for your time, making the time to attend this. And I promise you, you will have some nice takeaways and hopefully they'll make a little difference in your day-to-day activities. So as you can see on my screen, I thought I'll just take a little bit time to introduce myself. Siddhartha has done an awesome job telling everything about my professional life. So I thought I'll do a little personal touch to that. Probably my girls won't like me posting their picture like that. But you can see on the right side, my husband, and I have 3 beautiful girls and our little Simba that's right in the middle. Personally, I am a big believer of growing people. I always feel if we grow people, we can grow businesses. So let's see what we can learn today. And once again, thanks for joining. Just to give you a little brief on what we are going to accomplish and go through it. Some facts about time and managing time, and why can't we manage time, and how can we manage time better, and what is enough time. We use the word time enough, but I would like to introduce the word enough time today, and what kind of measurable successful results you can accomplish by implementing these little changes in your day-to-day activities. Please feel free anytime to add a question, to raise a question and throw it in the chat, just like Siddhartha had mentioned before, and we would gladly be taking it as we can and fit in, along with the 15 minutes that we do have in the end. So I'm hoping everybody did read the email that was sent an hour ago as a last reminder to bring a notepad, a pen, tech-savvy gadgets, whichever you can, because I would like to take some exercises during our 45 minutes and something so that you have some kind of a homework or some kind of a task list that you can look back after the webinar is over and see which one you would like to introduce. So if you do not have, I would encourage you to grab something where you can write down a little reflection time around between our 45 minutes. So be involved, ask questions, listen and share, and discover the best ideas and apply these techniques as you feel they fit in your needs. And just have fun, relax, and just let's have fun. So we would do a poll. I would need Siddhartha's help in that, and I would like to take a moment and ask you all to answer a question. How would you describe that you manage your day? And this kind of really helps me to understand the audience, and so that I can utilize and bring in examples that are more suitable to the percentage that I see in this webinar. So Siddhartha, if you can bring the poll in.
Yes, I just launched it. Everybody can respond to it and think of it from a management of the time itself during the day. We have many people voting here, so well, almost everybody. That's a good sign, pretty active.
That's awesome, awesome.
Either it's a good sign of being active or it's a desperate need to manage time. Either way, I think we're going to learn a lot here today, so that's good. Okay, so we'll give it another second or two.
Let's see.
We're about to close. If anybody else wants to express their opinion? Okay, now closing.
Okay.
So here we go. We have about 63% somewhat managed. That's where I fall to.
Okay.
And 32% managed, very well managed, 5%. Not managed, okay. 0. So that's good.
Okay. So that's a good information, a piece of information that we can utilize, and let's see how far we can take the results by the time our learning curve ends in 45 minutes, and take how much we can get better by applying certain tools. Yeah. So I would like to share some eye-openers here, workplace productivity. So if you, as you can read right there, $41 billion is lost, lack of productivity cost businesses each year in wages alone. That's a whole lot of money. And cost of distraction for each individual across the board, an average of $10,790 per year are lost due to distractions around our workplace. So why can't we manage our time well? I'm sure there's many reasons that you can quickly think of, so I have just named a few here. Too many things to do. We always have that, and I would like to ask you to think outside your workplace too. So we're looking here 24/7 at your home, at your work, at your outside task, and how well we manage our time. Too many things to do, lack of proper measurable plans work very well for our workplaces. Lack of focus, something that we use an example even on teenagers. Lack of focus to get stuff done. Lack of urgency, how urgent we prioritize our stuff, and it would dictate how much time and inefficiencies we may have in that. Doing things that are not much valuable. How many things we do in a day that don't get us anything? They're basically a little waste of time and don't bring any value back, but keeps us busy so that we can say, I'm a very busy person. And distractions. Starts with being a tech savvy, phone around you. Too many distractions is another reason why at times we can't manage our time. And there are a big list of what I can put down here. These are just a few, so not limited to what you're seeing on the screen. So why don't we have time? It's the favorite line probably everybody uses here and there. I don't have time. And it's actually lack of priorities. One of the key things why we don't have time is we lack and tend not to prioritize our stuff on a daily basis. Lack of focus. Distraction is #1 killer of focus. So to share some stats with you, as an average, a human being gets distracted every 11 minutes. And then it takes average 20 minutes to refocus back on the task that you were originally working on. So now think out loud. I'm working on something on my laptop and my phone beeps and it's a customer message or something personal, and I tend to respond to that. It will take me another 20 minutes later to take my focus back to where I was. Something we don't realize, how the impact happens on human mind. So I have used these 4 words, how I would describe a failure of not being able to manage time. I didn't have time. So managers, and this is an average stats given globally, managers do 173 different things every day. So if you have a free day sometime, maybe over the weekend, try to take some time and list out as much as you can, all the little things that you do often on a daily basis. And then put a check mark of what were actually the most important stuff in it. And the current stat is 165 items, tasks out of this do not count. They do not bring any value to us. So what are those 6 to 8 activities, tasks, things that actually are the payback, the ones that bring the time and expertise, and we get the investment back to us? So as I mentioned before, the word enough time. When we say I do not have time, but what about I do not have enough time? So here's some stats. In a week, there are 168 hours. So in 168 hours, as an average, every human sleeps for roughly 56 hours, works for 40, as long as we're working standard hours and no overtimes. And then 42 hours we can dictate to eating time, your travel time, your family time, your watching TV time, your partying time, and all the entertainment and all the other miscellaneous activities that we have on a daily basis. If you add that up, there are still 30 hours that are left. So where do these 30 hours go? That is the enough time that is lost among our 168 hours that if we can save and highlight it, could be utilized to pursue the dreams that you have, could be utilized to maybe go for some training that you had in mind that you wanted to do but thought you don't have time between work and home. It could be for some trip that you wanted to go and couldn't do because you thought you don't have time. or some other activity that you wanted to do in the evening, go for yoga or gym. Gym is the famous one. We don't have time for that. But there are 30 hours in a week that are being just misplaced somewhere in our routine and are not being utilized properly. So let's begin. We got the facts, and I hope that's a little good eye opener. So what are we going to do? We talk and we talk about I don't have time, and it's not yours. Like one of the comments that I hear is, Kiran, maybe you have time, but if you would know my routine, seriously, I don't have time. I've already checked it. I have my priorities. I know what I have to do, but I don't have the time to do those. So let's see if we can figure out some solution to that. Let's begin with prioritizing some 6 to 8 items, and we'll see how we can create enough time before we end today. So one of the main thing is, you cannot put, this is one of my famous quote, you can't put more time into your life, but you can put more life into your time. So focus your time on the stuff that means, and the stuff where your expertise lies, and focus on something that's going to bring you back the results that you're looking for. So let's look at our daily routine. And here's where I would like you to take a notepad and write down some 6 to 8 priorities that are really populating in your mind right now that you would like to do as soon as you can, and put that on your notepad. So these exercises that we're going to do, we are not sharing with each other. I'm just thinking and utilizing the time, few minutes, so that as we walk through this journey, everybody can have their own individual list by the time we end, which is customized to what you need and the stuff that you can do and you could do in the future. So I will wait for a few more seconds, and I'm hoping that everybody has kind of made a little list of some of the activities that they really would like to do, or some of the activities that they already do in this moment out of their 173 items in a day, and are very critical to them, the ones that are very valuable to you, the ones that bring value and something that is important to continue. And then the rest of those activities, which could be your takeaway work, I would encourage you to put them into 4 categories, the 4 categories that you're seeing on the screen. Put them in start, stop, improve, implement. Which are these tasks are the ones that have been on your to-do list, but you haven't been able to touch them yet because of the time restraint. So if they were on time constraint, let's see if we can put them in a start if they are part of your 6 to 8 priority. And then you can see the stop one, and you can put down the ones here, the ones that you really are thinking, you know what, I already knew this one is the waste of time. Let me put that in my stop, and for once now stop wasting my time in that on that task. And then I'm sure that you can think of something that you can actually improve. The activities that you are doing, but you feel that you could do better. You could do better and more productivity and more in efficiency wise. So if those are the ones where you would like to see some improvements, put them in the improve box. And then implement are the ones you're go-getters. You know you're good at it, and they are the ones you need to do every day. They are very important. They are the ones that bring value for you, and they are a must to-dos on a daily basis or often. Like I wouldn't restrict you just to a word daily basis. If it is something that is done often enough and it takes away your time frequently, that still qualifies for that. So let's put that in your implement bucket. So I'm hoping you have few at least, given the little time that we're allocating to that now, but I would encourage you to go back to the drill that we're doing now and spend more time and reflect on yourself and learn about yourself and make these categories to the best of your ability. So the next one is distraction. How many times do we get distracted in a day? And what do you think about the word multitasking? There was years ago when multitasking was a great asset. I think still to date, if we were to look at some resumes, we look for the multitasking. But multitasking is very limited to the positive outcome. So let's crack the myth that when somebody is trying to do few bunch of activities all together, your output, the impact, your productivity out of that is actually limited, unless if you were fairly to focus on one item at a time and give your very best. So they do not get and deserve the attention that they require. When we're trying to do more than one thing, our thoughts, our actions, our speed gets divided into that many tasks that we're trying to do at one time, and it impacts the outcome that we're going to receive. So I'll share an example. One of the things I noticed a month ago was that I had added a few more things on my cell phone, and I was spending a little bit more time than I usually would like to. I had added some notifications, so even though I was not taking an action on those notifications, it was a quick glance of distraction to look at the phone every time there was a screen lit up, or a beep, or a ring, or even my vibrator. And it was like, oh, what did I receive? That quick second of distraction is enough to do the damage during our process. So here's a list of 4 types of distractions. And these are the ones we need to understand so that we can stay focused in our daily activities. So the first one, and we're talking in sequence to task. So if you have a task which is neither important nor actionable. So I'll give you an example. Say you are working at your workplace right now, and you have to make a phone call, but you're in the middle of doing something very critical, and your phone and your laptop reminds you, hey, it's 3 o'clock and you need to make this phone call to a client, to a personal, whichever the case is. That is a distraction. That task that you're thinking of doing in the middle of doing something very other important stuff is a distraction. So how would you handle that? If that making that phone call is not important, that means it could have been sent as an email. You don't have to do it. Or somebody else could have made a phone call. Or that phone call could be done later and can be done by you. So it's not something that is so urgently important that you need to stop right now and handle that phone call. I would define that as not important. And something that is not actionable. You don't need to take any action on this right now. It can be delayed. It is something that does not need to be done now, is another one. So if that is the case, that task is a full-on distraction and can be eliminated. So going back to the drill of doing your daily task, 173, and prioritizing your 6 to 8, I would encourage you to try to see which ones you can eliminate, that they are just distractions during your day. I gave you my own example. I actually went, sat on a weekend and went through all my apps, went through all my notifications, and made tons of changes so that when I'm working on one thing, I'm not getting distracted. There's always a way, if somebody really needs to get hold of you, they can get hold of you. And it doesn't have to be every 3 seconds of something buzzing on your phone. So second is, if that task is important but not actionable. It is important. It does need to be taken care. Doesn't have to be done now, though. It could wait. but it is important. So it has to stay on your priority list, but it can wait, doesn't have to be in this very moment. That's another one. It's a distraction that you can ignore at this time, and as long as you have put a timeline for yourself to do it later. The third is a task that is important, and is actionable, but can be done in the future. It is not something you have to do today. It could be done in 4 months, 6 months. Some of the tasks that would fall under that category is something you had to submit or do, but the person you're submitting is already gone for 2 weeks. You could wait on that task and put a future date and work on the activities that are important as of today. So again, prioritizing our list on timing and allocating them when they're due. I personally keep always my buffer time, so you can keep your buffer times and then allocate and create windows of how you're going to spread them out on your calendar. The last one, and this is the only one I personally feel is a distraction that is important. If the task is important and actionable and very time sensitive, that does need to be addressed immediately. So if you're in the middle of doing a project, but it's a phone call where you need to call a customer and something very critical, the piece of information that needs to be communicated like now, and sense of urgency, there's sense of who is calling the client. It has to be you, not another person, because it may not be taken the same way if it was somebody else. It has to be done by you, then yes, that's a time sensitive. You need to take the time and do that, even though you will get distracted and have some refocus lost moments there. But that's where you would do the comparison. If it is that important and you are gonna kind of put a stop to your current schedule and take care of that, what is the value coming with that? If it is something that can bring some kind of a damage or a relationship with the client, and it is way critical than wasting the 20 minutes at this very moment, then yes. So things have to be prioritized. There's no one rule and formula for everything. You have to weigh when you're comparing your priorities, when you're comparing how important they are or how urgent they are, and if they're actionable or they're not actionable. So I've given that the number 4 is the only real distraction that we do need to take care of. So out of the 173, how many are the ones that fall under number 1, number 2, number 3, and can be now completely removed, kept aside, or allocated to a bucket where they belong in a much better way? So let's take and continue on our distraction and see how they disrupt. So if you have listed, and you can continue doing it at the side as we're walking through this, is list all the workplace distractions. Look at your work, things that disrupt you. Probably it could be a person that likes working in a quiet place, and you have a bunch of other team members, colleagues that are around you working on something that's more louder, and that's a continuous disruption to your focus. Some people like working in a very peaceful environment. If that is the case, then that is an item that would get prioritized based on your personality, your needs. An item where you do need to make a phone call, an item where you needed to make a phone call, but you would go back, hey, do I really need to call like now? Can I not just ask somebody else to send an email and taken care? So now you're delegating the task, but it is taken care, but it is not actionable for you. It could be actionable for another person. It is important, so got taken care of. So categorize these and see how your bucket gets populated, and it would again help you prioritize and sort out your items on a daily basis. So I would like everybody to do like an assessment. This is like a master verification plan. Complete a self-evaluation. Once you do that, pick an area for improvement. And once you have highlighted the area you would like to improve, create a plan for execution. So assessment is on yourself, and don't overjudge yourself, and pick an area where you would like to improve. It does not have to be a weakness. It could be just an opportunity. It could be something you would be working on in the next month or the near future. It could be something where you're assigned a new task in the coming future, and it is a skill that you need to develop to be more successful. It's all yours to pick how you would like to pick. Do we have a little glitch here? So let's walk through our self-assessment, and all these slides will be posted later. So feel free to take your time later to use this self-assessment list and work your way through it. So these are to be rated from 1 to 5. 1, something you almost never do. 5 is something you almost always do. So let's go through the first one. Think. Do you think at some point each day? Do you take the time to think? And think could be anything. Think about your planning. Think about the stuff that you have in your hand. It's at times we are such a go, go, go person that we do not just stop. And if we stop and take a moment, it would tell you, hey, I can do this better in a much less time and much better quality coming out of it, instead of just going with the race. It's just like at times people say that we are so much within a facility at our work and so much involved in it that when we are off our work environment, even if it is a vacation where you end up using your phone because you're keeping a check of your work, and your brain works like, what is going on at my workplace? Well, what are we doing? But the day we were in the workplace, we don't feel that. It's taking a step away, looking at the things from a distance, and you see a very different perspective. So do you on a daily basis take some time and think about everything around you? Second one, reflect. How do you reflect on yourself? Do you take the time? I personally take a time every night. It's like a good night thing for me, for 5 minutes. Take the time, walk through my schedule. What did I do? Who did I meet? How did I kind of judge myself at times? How I behaved, how I talked, and then it's like, what can I do better tomorrow? If I thought this didn't turn out the way I wanted to, what am I going to do different tomorrow to make it better? So reflection really help you along with your thinking mode to make some improvements, taking a note and writing it down so that you are a step ahead the next very time. It continues to the learn phase. Actually, combination of thinking and reflection is learning. And that learning that you gather, how you're sharing it with the people that are around you, developing those new ideas of getting better, making improvements in time. If you are gathering something new in this webinar, by all means, take the time and share it, reflect, look through your 173 pointers, prioritize your stuff, look for your enough time, look for the distractions that you can get rid of, and utilize the time more wisely, and share that information with other people around you. Expose yourself to better and new ideas, and then share them with others. Develop. Continuing to further to that, it's developing people around you. It's like a very famous thing is to be successful, you want to be surrounded with smart people. If you have smart people around you, you're kind of taken care of. The same way is if you have a right team around you, you're actually taken care of. So what effort do we make as an individual to develop our teams, to make a change, to make something better around us that would automatically be a payback to us, because it would come back to you at some point. So take the time to develop, share the pointers, share the ideas that you're learning, and share with your team to make it a better team play. And then execute. how successfully you get things done. You're thinking, you're reflecting, you're learning, you're sharing, and you're developing new plans. But how well are you executing it? How well did you plan? You executed, kept a check on it, which is a measure. So it's basically a SMART goals. So that in the very end, you hit the target that you wanted to. You reached the priority that you had on your hand, the task that you wanted to accomplish. So take your time now or later and utilize this self-assessment tool and go rate yourself. And I would also encourage you to utilize this at some point later, some point time later, and then see if you are rating yourself in a different way. It comes in really handy. At times, we do not reflect as much. We do not are on a 4 level. I would be surprised if everybody is number 5. But if you are at a little lower number and that is the area that you're going to focus and make an improvement, then take the time later at some point and go through this evaluation again and see if you see any differences and improvements there. Moving on from here is success is in your hand. And it's all planning, executing, keeping a check, realigning yourself to the success that you would like to go to. So some of the questions that I would ask you and encourage you when you're in your thinking mode or when you're trying to reflect, to think about it. From the stuff that you have taken from the last half an hour, 40 minutes, how would you utilize that in your daily routine? What specific thing will you do? How will you measure your success? If you're making a change, always I would request, encourage you to, before making any change in your daily routine, making changes in anything that is going on at this very moment, always ask why. Why are you making a change? And what do you expect out of it? That would help you also to prioritize as you're trying to balance your priorities and your enough time, so that you can put measurables in play. Your measurables will keep you on track that you are going to hit your priority on time. Because again, time is money. If your timing is not on check, that means your next priority will get delayed. So it is very critical to have our priorities, keeping a check, making sure we're aligned, whether it's a project or task or personal thing, whether you're planning to go to university, maybe you're planning to go for a course and you have to make phone calls and you have to check and look around and do your digging to make a decision. Make a plan for every little thing that would actually help you. It's just getting in a habit. At times we think it takes time to write those stuff. It takes time to make a plan. So we kind of jump into straight away to action. But trust me, planning is not that much time where compared to the time that we could waste if we thought something different, we ended up doing something different. So define your steps, how you're going to achieve your plans, how are your actions relevant, and create your time frame. Create your time frame for SMART goals, have your action plans, and utilize the lesson learned from the tasks you have done in the past so that you are doing better and utilizing your time more effectively, more efficiently in the next project that you're working on. So before I finish, I would kind of like to wrap up these. If you can just keep this particular slide in your mind, I think I would be more than happy that I was able to add something or bring value to you. Number 1, prioritize tasks. Prioritize tasks so that your mind is only focused on those. Declutter. Remove the 168 and identify them, whether they're important or not important, are they urgent or not urgent, and make yourself a more productive list. Distractions. Put every distraction that you can think of and put them in one of the bucket out of those 4 and see what action do you need to do according to that. And along with all these, you would be able to find the enough time. The things that you're doing are not adding value, and you can remove them and create that little special time you need to fulfill the dreams that you have in your mind. And all this together with a 4 combo is how we get our SMART goals. Very specific, measurable, and achievable, relevant, and time-bound for our maximum results. So thank you very much for your very valuable time. I hope your return on this time is productive, and you can take some value out of this and implement on your daily basis. So Siddhartha, we're open for questions.
Perfect. This was a great session, and would like to hear a little bit of what are the concerns that attendees are experiencing as well. We already have some questions, but you can also continue to use the question box, so not the chat. And one of the questions, which is kind of funny, because in order to attend this specific call, one of the attendees was supposed to jump off from another call or another meeting because that meeting started late or ran late. So she's trying to understand what category would that fall, and what were your thoughts on that one?
Could you repeat the last line?
Well, basically, the meeting, the prior meeting to this call was starting late, and the attendee had to leave. And in that case, to me, it's something that really depends if the attendee can control or not. Or one of my suggestions was maybe the person, by leaving the meeting, shows the prior team the fact that they can't just run late, or they have to be on time, otherwise they can't rely on the attendees to be on that call. So maybe it's kind of an indirect education for the future as well, and also how important it is to be in that meeting. But I don't know what to think about that.
So that's a great question, and something that happens to a lot of us many times. I'm sure everybody can relate to that. A meeting, and it's again prioritizing your meeting agenda. Not, I didn't mean you, like the team, having a very specific agenda. All these things that we talked about in this webinar are applicable to many other situations, not just the work and the tasks that we do. They can be related to 5S. Just like I was talking about removing the 168 items, well, it's similar to the 5S for the people that are aware of that term. And again, applicable to a meeting agenda, having a very definitive agenda by minutes of what we are trying to do in a meeting, with a clear understanding of what the outcome is. A lot of meeting times are a waste of time and do not bring value because there is no outcome that is thought of. What actually are we sitting together, and what do we want to accomplish? The clarity of that going into a meeting defines what kind of an outcome team is going to get. And if team is going to come out just talking and discussing and giving viewpoints with no definitive next action plan, that is a waste of time. And I will not allocate that as my enough time bucket. So these are the stuff where I would suggest to put them into your improve buckets that you have highlighted. These are important stuff. You can get away with not having meetings, and at time it may not be considered good walking out of the meeting, because I guess everybody who has asked that meetings, that was the most important thing. But giving the message that how much you value the time is probably another good thing for a message to go across. And second is asking. At times, people don't tell you an agenda. Feel free to ask, hey, what is the agenda? Why am I coming? And what are we trying to do here?
Exactly. Yeah, I tend to do that, and it is very helpful, because you don't want to just agree to everything, and sometimes it's hard to say no, but you have also to know where are you committing your time. So, well, thanks for your sharing here. There is another question about the last hot project which happen all the time, and where do they fall in this prioritization, or what's a good strategy? Which I guess we can save some time for those to the last minute as well. But what is your thought? What's your thinking on this one?
So when you're talking about the last moment projects or the projects
urgent, do it as yesterday, yes.
yeah, something that was past due, and it was past due by the time you even heard about it, or even you heard about it and all the information is not still not available to you. Again, I would say that put down the whole information in front of you, all the things that you do need to do. There could be certain things that are out of the norm, so there could be something that when you declutter and the things that you can actually remove, which can shrink the time required to fulfill. But then given all the productive and the quality work that you do have to do to accomplish the result is the bare minimum time that you will require. That is the point where you would take that information to the person that is directly linked to that and say, listen, this is the bare minimum time. And at times, instead of just going and saying, are you kidding me? This was supposed to be done now, today. Like, how can I do that? Giving that answers in workplaces, I personally feel is adding negativity around you and feels like that you do not care as much. But if you would kind of raise that you understand you're telling me this now and how physically or humanly this is possible, but let me look into it and give you a better picture, could be another better answer. When you do that, that means you are serious, you will give your best, you will try your best and walk through a process plan. And once your process plan is there, you take that information and share with the team and say, look, I tried to take this out because that is not that relevant. I've taken the ones that are not important and not actionable at this moment, but these are the bare minimum number 4s or 6 to 8 priorities that I do need to take care, and this is the time that is required. So understanding and communicating that information also help you to prioritize and utilize your time properly.
And that's well put. One thing that have also helped me, which I think we mentioned last time we spoke on a webinar, is in that prioritization include, as you mentioned, when you show information to the requester, include them as well. Let's say projects are coming from 2 different people and both of them want something done at the same time, or one sooner than later, but still like very urgent. Then include them in that prioritization and make them part of it. So let them figure it out who can wait a little bit more and who can't. So they do see why you are actually not refusing, but as you said, that you are working in and you need some sort of timelines prioritization there.
So staying organized and communication are 2 very important piece of skills that help you to utilize your time properly and get the result you want. Communicating them and organize. If you're organized, you have planned your stuff properly, you would be able to show the facts. It's not one person's word, another person. It is the facts. Here's the information, here's all the plan, and what I'm saying is right here. So communicating in that way always help you to get your best result that you're looking for.
Yep. And so what was that MVP? Is that the name of the assessment, and that can that be done?
Yeah, so just a verification process, right? So I personally believe that anytime we try to make a change, so this is again a change. If I'm
what does it stand for? Is it the name of the assessment?
Master verification plan. So when you put together your SMART goals and planning and execution and measurables towards your end goal with lesson learned. It's when you're trying to gather all that information for yourself and having an execution, proper execution listed, it helps you to think of the measurables you are going to need, and it helps you to make sure you're aligned. So anytime we're bringing a change, like introducing these tools is again a change. Anytime we do a change, there is a resistance around you. So if you want to bring a very firm agenda in your meeting, as we talked about that point before, there will be a resistance. Like, why do I need to give you an agenda? Like, I don't have time to do it, or I couldn't do it, or whatever reason, or I do not even have the right info to make an agenda for the rest of the team. It could be all the right reasons why agenda couldn't be made. But so that's again a resistance to a change. But if you share the value, and again I'm going that managing results and managing your time to get maximum results is very heavily dependent on communication and a proper planning. So if you have properly planned and communicated that if you're asking agenda, what value is it going to bring back? Value not to just to you to make your life easier for the day and not to do a runaround from one meeting room to another, but also the value that it would bring to the team. It's all about team play. And when you share that information, it resonates with people more. It gets understood in a much better way, and it helps you in that way. So when you're looking at your master verification plan, anything you want to do, anything you want to make a change, look and say, what value is it going to bring you back? If you do not have an ROI identified to anything you're trying to do different tomorrow, then why are you doing it? If you're okay wasting 168 items and the life is peachy and good, why are you going to prioritize tomorrow? When you're going to do this, it's all homework you have to do. Go through your list, prioritize them, find the time. This is all the tasks that I'm saying as the homework you will have to do to maximize your results from your time. So why would you do it? You would do it because to gain something. And the value coming back from time would be to utilize your time properly. It's all time utilization, and allow you the ability to do the things that you're not able to do and you could do after you have utilized the time properly. So that is the value coming out of these tasks. Similarly, anything you try to do at your workplace, look for the value. And when you do from planning to value and aligning them as if there is any change in the middle, is like a master verification plan. You're planning it, you're verifying it, you're planning it, verifying it as you're taking a step towards your target.
And this is kind of also responding to one of the comments or questions there about how you also impact other people, so drive the culture and the workplace environment, because it's not just you. And in order to do and apply those takeaways, it's not something that you can just do alone. As you mentioned, communication. There is also the part of exemplifying it yourself. Maybe in the short term it's not going to work, but in the long term, if you keep doing and working that way, other people around you will get something valuable out of it. So they'll understand, oh, this works better, so let me try and do that. But what's also interesting is the ASQ itself, the whole DMAIC model. If we follow that and not just log that into the quality department, supposed to be done only by quality people, it does have a step-by-step on how we work on tasks and projects. So there is a communication plan, there is the whole stakeholders being involved since the beginning. So everything, if we work that way and we make it the way we work, instead of just leaving it to people who have the role of quality, I think that's how you drive culture. And another comment here was, can I use a Pareto, which I don't see why not. Like, it's the same thing as prioritizing. Depends on the time you have to kind of design it, because when you mention prioritization, there is also pointing out that before we mentioned before last minute projects, so you do need to reevaluate that prioritization and not just like have it done and keep it there. So from time to time, you mentioned you look at it every night. So I don't know how it's going to work for other people, but so a couple of questions more, and we try to cover it. We have 6 more minutes left. So what's the best tool?
Just before you go to that, a very important point that came to my mind as you were talking about that is the data collection, the records or the data that we collect at our workplaces. That's in a great area where a lot of people, a lot of individuals, a lot of professionals spend the time to collect data. The forms we fill, Excels that we fill, the hard copies on the floors in manufacturing spaces that get filled up. What is the value coming out of that? So same way you can put that in that case. that if you're doing this action, that task, what is the value coming out of it? And if that data is collected and it does not indicate you or inform you about your KPIs or whatever the target was supposed to be, then what was the purpose of collecting that data? That is again a task that we're doing out of the 168 tasks a day, which are not bringing us back the value. So those are the activities that would think about, do you stop? Or is it something that can be modified and improved and can be utilized for some requirements that you have? Or it's an item that you should stop because it's not doing anything. There are a lot of things that people would say, we do it because we always did it this way. So keep that in mind as well.
We have a scenario, since you mentioned about data or information here, where the team has a communication tool, which is, it can be a software. We have that as well. Instant messaging, basically. So they write to you, they expect a response right away. It's very beneficial. I don't know if the person itself was asking, is a subject matter expert there, but it's expected to respond immediately, which is a lot of distraction for getting the job done. Now, again, I don't know what kind of expectation has each role, and if it's part of the job requirement itself, or has it ever been discussed, but it's clear it's an expectation from what the attendee is asking.
So
how
just
do you
trying to
respond to that?
Yeah, I was just trying to understand it in a better way. Is it like a task that there's a software where they have to record certain
It's instant
information?
messaging. I don't know if you guys have it at your work. We do. It's like Skype for business kind of thing.
Yeah.
But they ask you a question and you have to respond right away, so the person gets things done. But it looks like customer service, but doesn't look like the role of the person is a customer service role within the department itself. So it can be very distracting towards getting the other things done.
Okay. So then again, open it up, communication about it, right?
Yep.
There are tasks that we do it because we were asked to do it. You joined the company, you moved into a new position, new department, and there's a norm of the things being done, and the new person jumping in just kind of flows with the flow. And taking a check back and look, okay, if I'm doing this task, what am I getting out of it? What is the outcome? Who is it servicing? Is it helpful to me, bringing value to me? Is it bringing value to another person at workplace? If it is something you're doing at home, is it bringing value to somebody at your home? So re-looking at everything, that's where your reflection, even if you take 2, 3 at a time, don't bombard yourself with 173. That's an average number. You could be 50, 100, 200, 300. But look at few at a time, something that you do all the time, something the frequency is probably weekly. And then once you tackle that, look at the things that are on a daily basis. Take few at a time and do your self-assessment on that and see which are the items that are being done just because they were being done for all the time in the past.
And we have 2 more minutes, so really quickly I wanted to respond to, again, there's another scenario where some team members consider it a high priority, for you it's low priority. As Kiran mentioned, discuss to come together with a prioritization. If it's tasks are dependable to one another, that would be the way to go. There was a question from, we have somebody from West Africa, so really happy to have them here. And is there any program, anything like that, a course? I would recommend the book, which I mentioned to Kiran before, Getting Things Done, which I read and has a lot of similarities, from David Allen. Yeah. And how much time would you spend, or unless you know some other resources or courses? And the other question is, how much time would you spend on, would you recommend spending on a task before you take that break and then go back to focus again?
How much time?
Do you have something like that?
Yeah.
On a specific task, and then you get.
How much time would you spend on the task that you were working on, or the distraction?
Before you have a break. The task itself.
The task itself. I think it would again really apply and vary depending on that task itself. If depending on the task, if it is a deadline, so say I'll just use this webinar as an example. If getting the presentation done by 1 o'clock at least for a 2 o'clock webinar, and that means I have an end goal, right? It's definitive time, and I'm making my plan backward. So at times you have to make your plans backward. You have a very definitive end result that you need to meet, and that cannot change. In that case, when you do your backward plan and you have, whether it's distractions or other tasks that get dropped in the way, which were not in the picture before, you have to, when you're trying to put them in 4 buckets, your criteria will be more strict, because you have an end goal that cannot change at all. You will be really comparing to that end goal, that do I really stop what I'm doing, making my presentation, and go do this, and take a chance of not finishing the presentation on time? So it depends on that situation, how serious, how firm those targets are, and what are you comparing it. So when we're talking about value, which one is more valuable? And is it really worth doing something else in between and jeopardizing and taking a risk there? So it may vary if it was something else. If it was something that I have to submit August 22nd, it did not matter whether it was 9 a.m. and 6 p.m. And that means I had 2 priorities that were number 4, and I needed to take care of them. And I feel, okay, I can do it. Maybe I'll just have to work a little extra or submit this 5 o'clock. I was thinking 3 o'clock before. Then you can make a different call and you will say, okay, I can do that. But if you didn't have that chance, you did not have that leverage, then your decision making will be very different. So always compare one depending on the situation.
And this being said, I would like to, first of all, thank you for all the great input during the whole conversation and just the questions, but also thank the attendees who raised their questions and concerns. There is some extra assessment that you can do home, as Kiran mentioned, to take this, basically the presentation itself, and spend a little bit more time on it. We will share this on our website, and that will be done around 1 to 2 days. You can go on the website and find it. You'll also get an email. Our next webinar will be in September 19th. It's already out there on our website at 2 p.m. and we'll have Miss Babette Ten Haken, which will be talking about how basically we share the value of collaboration in walking quality talk throughout your organization, which is a topic that comes handy. As I mentioned before, quality sometimes is seen as belonging to the quality department, and that's not the case. The registration can be done through our website. The link is on our chat box. You will get automatic notification for future webinars if you go on our, either follow us on LinkedIn, or you can sign up for our newsletter, which is free to members and non, and you can find that on our website. For today's webinar, we do have a 1 minute or less survey, which will pop up as soon as you close the webinar, but also you will see the link if you are attending through the call. You'll see an email with link, and would really appreciate your feedback, because that's how we kind of get the input and either change the topics or find new topics or move the timeline, etc. Everybody who has been attending for 40 minutes, as I mentioned before, will get CEO credits. You'll receive an email about that, a separate email. And thank you again for the participation. Have a good night, everybody, and looking forward to seeing you to the next webinar.
Thank you.
Thank you.